So this is all today's vegetable pulp in this big bowl, and this is Leek's. There's apple pulp underneath. There was, let's see, about one colander, one of those plastic colanders full of apple, and then quite a lot of Leeks. This Leek gave me 400 milliliters of juice to make soup with later, and this was
tasty soup.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this was a colander full of tomatoes, and I saved the seeds to give away, but you can see there's a couple I missed. And then the rest is kale pulp, a lot of kale pulp. And well, I'll tell you about what I'm going to do with this, but what I want to mention is that there's no way that I would be able to tell the difference if I was served tomato pulp salsa from a restaurant. If I was served if I opened up a can of diced tomatoes and this is what was in there, I would not realize that it's pulp. So it's just something to keep in mind. Another thing, I'm going to eat this banana which James brought me from the university. They were giving them away. I don't know the story behind that.
They're just trying to make freshmen feel as though they fit in, right?
Yeah, but what I wanted to mention is I found it funny that they weren't giving away apples because it's apple season and they're beautiful, and they're giving away bananas. But I'm very thankful for the whatever. But I mean, it's just we can grow the apples here, and so why not?
They're
right?
native to here, or not native, but they're comfortable in this climate. They can grow.
Yeah.
Comfortably.
So I'm covering this up for now, but right when I get in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some chili powder to that. So
to hotten it up, eh?
Well, no, just to make it chili flavored. And
just enough then.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about putting some what do you call it? Nutritional yeast.
I think you got some nutritional yeast on your nose.
Do I?
Right on the tip of the nose. Now you got it there. So I don't think it's nutritional yeast.
I've been worried. I've been working in the
kitchen.
All day. It took a long time to juice all that. But that's one day's worth of juicing. This is a typical day. How much pulp I'm left with to play around with and come up with some new recipes.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah, and I've never done Leek. I've never juiced Leek before, but I know.
Maybe never again, right after the reaction.
Oh, crying, and
yeah, I'm crying, and I was just in there for 3 minutes after you'd finished. Right?
And my throat was sore, so I'd have to go away from the juicer for a while, go back to it. But the thing is I can't stand the waste of the tops of the leeks, the green part of the leeks.
Yeah.
I always end up using just the white part because when I cut up leeks, I don't like the texture of the green part. It's still really hard, and so I never end up using it.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's such a waste.
So the green stuff that you lay out on my plate for stuff, that would only be onion leaves. Right?
That's green onion and chives. Not leeks.
I like those pretty good. Would leeks be, they're too crunchy or too stringy or something?
Well, I really have a hard time with celery also, the way the cells run this way.
Yeah, it's funny. I like celery.
Yeah. So it might just be that. It might be a personal thing. But in any case, I figured, well, why don't I try to juice the green part, and then when I'm making my soup, then I'll use the juice, and I'll try this all minced up in the nuggets. This is the first time I've tried leek pulp in nuggets, so I don't know if it'll work really well, but why not try it out? So anyway, that's what I figured. Oh, and I'm also going to add something to stick this together, and that could be a number of different things. I could use potato, I could use breadcrumbs if I want to, but I won't. But I could. I could use, that's probably the most popular thing to use when making any kind of nugget really is breadcrumbs. Or like my grandma used to make her hamburgers with meat with soda cracker crumble. And so I do basically the same thing when I make it with the breadcrumbs. It's dried breadcrumbs, stick it in. But I rarely do that now, even though that's available to me. But I prefer using potatoes, honestly. And you don't need much. Just maybe this whole bowl, I might need 2 baked potatoes. Not even really big ones. So I'll probably use that. And if I cook them on like over the fire, then they get a nice smoky flavor. And it's awesome. So that's what I prefer using, is the potatoes. But I could also use oat flour, which you just take oatmeal and you stick it through the food processor until it's powder. It's that easy. So there's a number of things I could do. And we'll see what I feel like doing when I'm putting it together after this deck dinner. So James is just having reheats from before. He's having tomato juice from those tomatoes. And what else? Oh, and I made you apple juice from the apple. I also had a drink of apple juice myself and some tomato juice myself. So I already did that. Now we're going to talk about this movie which sucked. Secret Life of Pets 2.
Secret
what was it? Secret Life of Pets 2. I can put it on for you, but it's junk. So why?
It might make good sleeping background material. You know?
Okay, but we have a lot of that. So you may as well sleep to some good stuff.
Isn't that amazing? You know, those Hollywood producers, Bollywood, not so much Bollywood producers, but Hollywood, English producers of movies, French, I don't have to, Japanese.
I don't know.
They put out a lot of sleeping.
There was a funny part where one of the dogs was trying to train the little puppies, like the old Basset Hound, he's trying to train the little puppies on how to not be, really a good dog, just setting their own
just kind of relaxed
agenda.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, he was kind of grumpy, but
the Basset Hound was?
He was old. So that could have been.
Well, Copper wasn't grumpy.
No, he was nice.
He was
anyway,
a bit humpy.
Yeah, he'd huff.
But he'd cry.
Yeah.
Like that.
Oh,
but
I loved him.
Grumpy old guy,
he was awesome.
So
anyway, this Basset Hound in the show was not like mine. And so this Basset Hound was trying to train the dogs to do kind of cute, naughty things. And so the one little puppy, the Basset Hound was asking the puppy, the puppy said, I need to make a poop. And so the Basset Hound said, well, you know what to do. And just find a slipper or a shoe or something. And so then I laughed and laughed. Yeah, he was good. He did not poop in shoes. That's a Chihuahua kind of thing.
You know, like eventually he started losing control of his bowel functions. He pooped in bed. But
that was an accident.
Remember when he pooped in the car?
He was so embarrassed.
He was too excited. We're trying to get him to.
He was actually scared.
Oh, he was scared. He was just shivering with fear.
He did not mean to do it.
No, it's just he couldn't help it. So
I don't know what kind of trouble he'd gotten in the past, but by the time he came to us, he was
very well trained.
He was such a good boy.
Yeah,
I mean, he had some accidents as he aged, but he couldn't help it.
Yeah. So
anyway. So there was that. So that was funny. And then the puppy said something like he'd put it in a boot and it'll take months for them to find that, or something like that. And they were laughing.
Yeah, speaking of months, but remember Tornado? He's another little Basset Hound. You trained him.
Oh, so good.
And you caught him once under the bed.
He pooped under the bed. And he was going under the bed, and I said, are you going to poop under there, or something like that? And he came out, he was all embarrassed.
Yeah, remember when we came back and we were fixing up your place? He was dead by that point in time. He died while I was getting my stem cell therapy. And we thought we'd find a fair amount of poop under there. We found
one poop. He was such a good boy. He'd done it, and he didn't do it again.
No.
When he knew that I was onto his game, that was that. Yeah. But anyway.
He was a good little
boy. So Basset Hounds get a bad rap. If you have an untrained Basset Hound, that's on you. Because I had no problems with them. They're great.
Yeah, the thing about Copper is he'd already been trained, but he actually learned stuff. You got him when he was 9.5 years old. You had him for 5 years. I think he made it to 14.5 years old. And it's amazing the things I taught him. Things that I've tried to teach young pup dogs. For example, he'd like to catch stuff I'd throw to him in the air. And it was like a big alligator catching stuff. He was very good at it. He was an old geezer when I started teaching him. to do that, and maybe done it before, you go whump.
I shouldn't
But the thing
say
is,
that.
sometimes I'd overthrow him, and it'd get behind him, and he didn't know where it was. I tried to save some time, so I'd say, behind you! And it didn't take him long.
I shouldn't say that that's a Chihuahua thing to do.
To poop inside?
Because
no, Annifred's perfect.
Yeah, I trained Annifred
Yeah.
from when she was a baby, and she's perfect. She'd never do it.
Yeah, people let Chihuahuas, the ones that we've inherited one way or another.
Exactly, they
people
come
let
this
them,
way,
they're pooping so small. They go, hey, I'm not going to train them because it's so small. It's not worth it.
I don't know, but then they give them away because they didn't train them properly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's, I mean, honestly.
We had a couple of guys. They actually were about a year old, and they were awful. And
they didn't know English at all.
Yeah,
it was, you may as well be talking to a rock.
Yeah, they eventually picked it up. And
what?
I can remember,
those little boys, you mean?
The little boys.
Oh, I thought you meant the other two that we got.
Oh, those ones
wow. There
was
going to be no training those ones.
Not hammers, mallets. But no, the ones we got hold of, they were pretty sharp little fellas, but they had never been
They were
trained.
very nice boys.
I remember the first time I took them out for a walk in Grand Prairie, they had no clue what to do with a fire hydrant or a lamp post or a
they didn't know.
Sign.
They didn't know they were supposed to be out there at all.
And then, finally I got Carlos kind of trained. And what he'd do is he was trying to please, right? So what he'd do is he'd get to a lamppost, he'd go, up against it this way, then this way about 6 times, trying to show,
Look, I figure it out.
Yeah, and, instead of hitting a variety of different places on the walk. But then he'd hit the next thing, and he'd do it 6 times. And, okay, we'll be here all day.
Takes a while. Yeah, exactly.
All day.
So anyway.
Remember poor little Taco, he'd been trained to sit down.
Yeah, that was sad. He keep backing up.
He thought he was supposed to back up. So my back was in bad shape. I'd have him here at one side of the living room or den downstairs at Pauline's mom's place, as I said. And then I'd just be going, and as I was reaching down, he'd back up.
Yeah,
and eventually ended up on the other side of the room.
Yeah, it's easy to train a dog to sit by just putting it over, like putting the treat over their head, because then their bumps go down. Yeah. But not him.
Yeah, no, that was trying to please. He was saying it's the process of. He understood it was.
He did, and he was so stressed out. You could tell. Like,
I know.
We just give it to him because honestly, it was just sad.
Poor little fella.
So anyway, but the major problem I had with this, there's one part of the movie where there's an old lady. She comes to what has happened is there's this runaway tiger or something, and he's run away from the zoo and he doesn't want to go back there. And so they've basically abducted this tiger, and this little old lady is going to rescue the tiger from being taken back to the zoo by its owner. And so she hits the circus guy with her car. And then when he's like struggling to get back up after she's in front, she puts it in reverse, nails him going backwards. And somehow this is a kids movie? We're teaching children to be that aggressive? Yeah. Like, seriously, that's awful. Yeah. So, ugh. Yeah. Clara. Now, this one I cried at. And yeah, it's a bit...
Now, this wasn't the Leeks talk.
No, this was...
before the Leeks, okay.
Yeah, it was sort of... I don't know. If you're lost, if you feel like you're lost in the universe, and you're somewhat spiritual, I suppose, you can go along with some sort of mysticism or something, because this isn't very scientific. But and you feel like, oh well, I want to feel like I'm not alone. Then that's a good movie for you to watch. I think I'm going to save it for James to watch, but I don't know. I don't know what he'll think of it.
Well, all I got to say is I'm seeing a lot of stars there. And one way to feel lost in the universe, maybe in a good way, is to go out away from light pollution. It's the stuff in the cities and junk like that. Turn off the lights of the car, and on a Chinooki day, because they say around here that's when it's the clearest oftentimes. And just look at the stars, and you get a sense of...
well, I don't know if it's the clearest then, but what I've found that I like going out in the fall or the winter and looking at stars. That seems to be when I want to do it. And so, when are you going to do it? You're not going to be out there when it's minus 40. You're not going to want to do that. So,
I've actually done that, but maybe not minus 40, but minus 20, stuff like that. So just get bundled up.
If you nail a Chinook night, well, that's great.
Well, Chinooki nights are good. Yeah, of course, a lot of times, Chinooki times, it's covered over. When it's clear during a Chinook, is what astronomers say, that's some of the clearest weather that you get.
Well, anyway, American Gods Season 2, I enjoyed this so much more than Season 1. I really enjoyed watching this this season. The special effects were good. The story kept me present, I suppose. I wasn't tempted to leave the room very much. I was perfectly happy doing things like this and crossword puzzles.
Fall asleep.
Well, I did some crossword puzzles while it was on, but it's...
I do crossword puzzles, and if a movie's
I'm still in the room, whatever.
or appeals to me, all of a sudden the crossword puzzle doesn't get done,
That's true. Yeah. So, anyway, but, I stayed in the room. I didn't end up leaving the house, so...
There you go, see?
It was good. I would recommend this one, and not this one.